Olusola-Obasa, and I am absolutely excited to be here. As I always say, enjoy this music for a bit. Thank you everyone who left a comment earlier on the show. It amazes me to see that many of our people, even outside of Nigeria, have had to put mouth in the matter. Errand boy, there have been a lot of interesting aspects to this conversation. So I'm just going to allow you join the show. Every time you hear this music, it's time for Mind Your Character with Bosede Olusola-Obasa. So, how has your day been? How has work been? Did you run errand for anybody today? Good question, right? We have all had to run errands at a point in time in our lives. But this show is just trying to set certain things, certain facts right. Thank you, Madam Bigbe Balogun, for joining me all the way from the US or UK, if I'm not mistaken. And thank you, Mr. Jeremiah Olauto, for joining on Instagram. Mind Your Character on Instagram. So I'm going to let this play a lot lower, and then the show will start. I'm going to begin with the review of last week. Welcome again, everyone. Mind Your Character is a personal effectiveness and public enlightenment show that started on radio over 5 years ago, and right now is fully online. I would like to let you know that this show is about becoming better. So we don't throw tantrums here. We don't do bass here. What we do is try to look at every side of the divide and then draw lessons and become better. So that's what this is all about. I welcome you once again. And for those who will be joining just after I'm done doing my welcome, bienvenue. I mean, is it bienvenue or bon arrivé? Welcoming you. Thank you so much. My name is Bosede Olusola-Obasa, of course, and I am your host for this show today. Let's do a quick review about last week. Last week, I started a series on leadership, and that's because I have a leadership roundtable coming up June 24th, 2023 at the Colossus Hotel in Ikeja. And I thought that we should begin to wet the ground and let people talk about their different views and expectations from leadership, whether as leaders themselves or people who are the receiving end of other people's leadership. So last week the topic was, is a leader always the smartest in the room? Is a leader always the smartest in the room? Is a leader always the smartest in the room? And I had fantastic outing. People came out and gave their views. I'm going to do the honors of reading some of them, and then I'll jump quickly into today's show. So Mr. Ojuya Tuoyo said, no, it does not always have to be. But he has to learn how to use the smartest people around to navigate his aim and goal. He is able to lead the smart people to achieve a common goal. That is what leadership is. Well, that's Mr. Tuoyo Ojuya, pastor specifically, and that's from Akure. Thank you for that comment. I absolutely agree with him that you don't have to be the smartest in the room, but you have to know how to coordinate the talents that you have to achieve a common good. And I have Mrs. Bere, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly now, Mo, and she said, no, he does not have to be the smartest in the room, but he should try to be the most strategic. He should be the most strategic. Remember I mentioned during my show last week as well that the leader might not be the smartest in the room, but he cannot afford to be backward or laid back. He has to always strive to be ahead, because one of the definitions of leadership that I've learned over time is that a leader has to be ahead. And for Mrs. Nwakama Andrew Official, she simply said, no, not always. And for Mr. Bamidele Okoegi, he said, no, but someone must be elected by grace to the office of leadership to lead others. Hence, he must not be bossy. He must not be bossy. Okay? So, we're going to go ahead to read the next comment from Gift God Free. And she said, no, it doesn't have to be the smartest in the room, but I say this always when I'm opportune to train leaders, that you should always follow the lion analogy. And coincidentally, I had used this analogy also when I was taking the show last week, saying that if a lion is led by sheep, the team is sheep in nature. And then if a team of sheep is led by a lion, forget, that team is lion in nature. And I have two more from last week as we do the reviews on, is a leader always the smartest person in the room? Is another person saying that Oluwafemi Akiola says, not always, and sometimes preferably so. I agree with him. He is a facilitator. His job is to discover ideas and create an environment where smart people harness ideas and flourish. That's what makes him the smartest, that is able to coordinate the team. Absolutely, I agree. And finally, from last week, I have Adebayo Jacobs. Adebayo Jacobs, pastor, specifically says, not necessarily. He has an edge in putting together all the ideas from the smart people on his team. So, conclusion from last week's topic on, should a leader always be the smartest in the room, or does he have to be the smartest in the room all of the time? Answer is no, but with so many explanations. You can catch up with last week's video if you want to know all that went down was said. I just said I should do the honors of echoing the voices of the people who took their time to put these comments on my wall when the question was posed. So I've gone live today again on Facebook to put another topic on leadership, and I'm so shocked. I think the way people are reacted to this show, the journalist that I am tells me that it has something to do with something that happened around this week. See, I'm not going to talk about that something that happened though. I'm just going to go ahead and do the show that I have. But yeah, I had this topic coming up when I watched the news and saw that there was a lot of hue and cry around somebody opening door for somebody. Let's leave it there. But moving on from there, let's look at these issues critically so that we can, take or maintain very, very straightforward, healthy, and sustainable positions. Today's topic: what's wrong with making your employee an errand boy? And the way I put it on the group, I said, is it okay? Is it okay to make your employee or your subordinate an errand boy? Is it okay? And I've had plenty people come out. As at the last time, I had 34 comments, and each of these comments are like lengthy. They're like people pouring out their hearts. I'm going to do the bit that I can to read their views, because I've gone through it and I absolutely agree with many of the views. Some people have said, oh, we all are going to be leaders at some point. Some people have said it depends on the camaraderie between the subordinate and the leader. If the leader is a good person, if he's a jolly good fellow, and he treats people right, people might just feel that is one of those things they should do for him, to run errands for him. But see, who calls the shots on errand running? That's another matter. But yes, I agree that you can love a leader so much because of who they mean to you, and you feel like doing everything for them. They mean the world to you, and look for your own ways to show them that they do. I agree. Now there is the other part of it where people say that no. If the company law says no, you should not do it. But question question, what about companies that don't say? Like I have Andrew with Drew Baba as his account name on Facebook. By the way, Drew Baba was my secondary school mate, and I was so excited to see him on the comment section today giving his views. I'm just going to read what he said. He is currently not based in Nigeria, and he's giving his views from a global view, and I think that we could pick a thing or two, even though they are in tandem with many of the things that my senior colleagues out there have also put out. So for Drew Baba, he says it is totally wrong. We have 10 hours or 12 to work in a day, and for those hours the employee is covered by an insurance that protects him. So he says, what if the person goes out to run errands for you and something not too good happens to them? In his own understanding, he knows that that insurance doesn't cover that person. But really, how does that person deal with that situation? Because these are hard facts, and we cannot sweep them under the carpet. So he goes on to say that the other part of it is when an employee is taking time to run personal errands for a leader or a manager or a supervisor or a superior, he does not necessarily gains more as far as his actual work is concerned. I'm sorry, I can see that my network is draggy, but I'm hoping that this will. So for the other on Bosede Olusola-Obasa, it's currently draggy, but I can see that on Mind Your Character, Facebook as well as Instagram, we're doing absolutely fine. So I'm hoping that the people following me on Bosede Olusola-Obasa will be able to come back soon. So my team is checking to be sure on why this is so. But I'll go on for the purposes of those joining me on other platforms. So I was on the fact that the second thing that Drew Baba said was that it does not add anything to the employee. There is nowhere the HR is going to record that, oh, because you act as this for your boss, here is, oh, thank God we're back on Facebook, Bosede Olusola-Obasa. So he was saying that it's not going to be recorded by HR for you. Mr. Olusola-Obasa, thank you for joining on that's on Facebook. Mind Your Character, thank you. So I'm going to read a few other comments. I have Mr. Madunagu Emeka, my boss. Okay, so himself and another commentator have been having a Glasgow, but I'm going to leave the Glasgow side. I'm a gentle girl. I'm just going to go on and say the things he said concerning this. He said it depends on the unofficial errand. So he's saying that apart from you saying that there should be relationship, that relationship can warrant it. If I have a good relationship with you as my boss, I could run errands for you. The other thing is, he's saying that apart from that, it depends on the errand. So there is this story that I have in the script that I have here that was called from Business Management Daily. This is a secretary to the owner of the business who is also a bookkeeper, who finds herself being asked to do everything that has to do with the family during working hours. For instance, she takes the children to school and brings them back. She takes family members for shopping, and while that is on, she loses the time that she should use to convert into a better professional, and that affects her eventually. So she says, let me just read a few things of her line. So this particular lady says that I take my boss's children to school and I do all that. And he said, I have tried to explain to my boss that this is affecting me because when I'm giving official assignments, I'm not able to deliver them because I have to give the excuse of what I have to do for the personal errands that I run for my boss. But the boss does not seem to understand. That again is one thing. So how do you secure the interest of that follower, team member that has to go during office hours to run errands for you, particularly when that's not what their official assignment dictates? How do you help them ensure that their professionalism is not being taken for granted? How do you ensure that they are not feeling used? This lady says she has gotten to a point where she has made it known that this isn't helping or working for me. And people that came in after her have been able to be assessed by HR and be giving promotions or raises from coming behind her. And this boss who makes her do all the unofficial errands is not speaking up for her. And what's more, she says she's tired. And she wants us to tell her, or she wanted that platform to tell her what to do, because she has seen that it's she feels very, very unproductive and feels used. So when Mr. Madunagu says that it depends on what unofficial assignment means to the person who's talking about it, I did agree that it depends on what it is. And then he encourages that people should serve because everybody has to rise from somewhere to the other place. Yes, do agree with him, but the truth is, who takes care of the time, the professional time that person loses to running those errands? How do you ensure, as a leader who wants people to run errands for you, to be sure that you look after their well-being professionally and all that? Or is there an agreement? Okay, let me read something else. Mr. Efebazwaye said, not only is it unprofessional, it is evil. Wow. He said, where people see nothing wrong with such relationship being a servitude. Okay? If you like slave mentality, then you will not see it as servitude. Every employment has a contract terms written and unwritten. It should shock you. There are employments I don't have. I was shocked to find out that in the education sphere as it stands in Nigeria, there are employers that don't give as little as employment letters to their employees. So is that the person that is going to say these are the terms of reference? Okay, so it's only assumed to be proper for there to be terms of engagement. So it says that if one isn't a personal assistant or a paid house manager to the boss, why on earth should he run errands for you? It's gross abuse of office, and then he says it's a vice, it is wicked. He used all of that, and he says finally, leaders must separate their domestic needs from corporate needs. I totally agree. I totally agree. And it's one of the things that we stand for here at RCB. Except your job is personal assistant or executive assistant, then accept the relationship part. But you see, there are even things that I don't feel comfortable asking anybody to do for me, because I feel that it undermines their professionalism. That might be wrong in some people's judgment or estimation, but that's how I feel. So at the end of the day, it's about what you feel, what your company's law says, and what values you uphold, and how you see people. Let me read Christina Temitope's comment. She says, it depends. It depends greatly on the designation, trust, or assignment that the errand involves. So many leaders do much more for their own followers. He said, however, if the subordinate feels he or she is being taken advantage of, there are always plenty willing hands. So he's saying in the case of if you are not willing to do it, another person would. Why? Okay, so what are the things that anybody gains from running errands? There are people who talk about the fact that some people use it to curry the favor of those that they work for or with. And there are others who say that do that as you like. If you do not warrant the position that the leader wants to give out the next day, you will not be given, not even for running all the errands. So at the end of the day, there's need for companies to put the right laws and policies in place to guide employees who might find themselves in this situation. And if you're a leader who necessarily needs people to do this for you, you have to have, like Mr. Bamidele Okoye put it, he said it depends on the camaraderie between the duo, the two of them. Do you have that kind of relationship that will make the person feel that it's a win-win? Do you have that kind of, have you been that person to them that they feel absolutely indebted to put it in those words? And are you sure that they don't feel used, they don't feel taken for granted? This is happening in so many organizations, and many of the times they are happening undercurrently that you hardly know who is feeling pressured or pained. Because like the lady I read to you just now, whose story was called from the business management daily. She has even taken the bold step of talking to the boss, but nothing is happening yet. I think she should take another step to talk to HR about it. Yes, some of these steps could turn a bit touchy and all the rest, but you see, better to speak up and get officialdom work for you, or begin to suffer continuously. So I will read Peter Ngozi Chukwu's comment. He says, it's absolutely not okay. Okay, another way of saying it is wrong. He said, but we were raised in a society. By the way, this is another diasporan. All the diasporans are angry, like they are angry this afternoon. We were at point together. He said, but we were raised in a society that finds it difficult to separate work ethics from culture. So duties and obligations, as well as entitlements and loyalty, will always get in the way. I will not lie to you, there are people who have had to earn promotion and so many beautiful things on account of running errands. But what when you get into another place where the new boss or the new leader does not want you to run errands? How do you climb? So you better be deserving of whatever you are getting and learn how to continue to deserve what you're getting. So he concluded by saying that an employee is asserting their rights against being ordered around in a certain way that is different from their job is sometimes seen as insubordination. He is very correct. Because at that point, it is your word against the word of that leader. May you not find yourself in the hands of a leader who wants you to do all of these things, yet they don't want it to show like that to those who are looking at you. And for people who will not even hold the brief for you when the chips are down. Okay, the next thing is to read from the great Friday Oloko. Friday Oloko, the last time I checked, he's based in Abuja, and he writes, it says, it has been illegally officialized. Wow. In some places where they use power to oppress, repress, and intimidate. Don't worry, this my Oga is like that. He's a powerful features writer, so don't be shocked. I mean, just calm down, follow him. He says, I respect your office. And he's an Ijo man at that. I respect your office, and I need you to also respect me, but I must resist your order and command. You must respect my age too. He said, I know one boss that has never called me by my first name. Yes, respect is reciprocal. Some of the time, many of these things are lack of respect for the human dignity of the person you are relating with. Because there's so much of dignity that you give to the second person that even if they are very, very much below you in terms of cadre, you learn how to know when they have the time to take care of things that are not official. It does not have to be when they are supposed to be doing things that are official and are supposed to create a raise or a platform or a grading for them. So he said that you can't tell me to wash your car. Am I your son or your maid guard? And then he says, okay, I've left Lagos and I still remember people who have been great bosses. Yes, so he's saying that I'm not your child, so you can't ask me to wash your car. I mean, what do you think? I don't also think that people should wash your car. Why can't you just take your car to the car wash point? But if you have the kind of relationship with that team member, maybe there is more to what is general. Well, you settle it within yourself. So at the end of the day, nobody's right and nobody's wrong to a large extent, but we want to set some records straight just so you know when you are being taken undue advantage of. And if you have to speak to HR about it, after speaking to that person about how it may have been affecting you negatively, or they should just take your designation now if that's what it requires, and then you know that you are being paid, you're working for what you're paid for. Okay, so Mr. Jeremiah said something earlier on, and then someone else said they agree with him. So I'm rushing down to where Mr. Jeremiah's comment is. He says, I speak as a follower, even though I know he's also a leader. Unofficial errands will come due to relationship with the boss. So a lot of people around in our climb believe that unofficial errands are a thing that have come to stay with us. But how should it play out? How should it not be allowed to affect the relationship or the prospect or growth of that subordinate, employee, team member, or follower? That is my own very point of interest today. So it says that yes, it could come due to relationship with the boss, And then he goes ahead to say, not every employee can be trusted with the boss's food, okay? We are coasting home gradually. With the boss's food, I must have earned the trust, his trust to be entrusted with such. So relationship first, then other things will follow, okay? Other people made that assertion as well. Then he finally said, also, I wouldn't know what an employee would want out of their job. But I feel if more is wanted than unofficial tasks should be expected and gladly accept if it doesn't cost my value. Okay, he says if it's not against my personal values, if a little more is expected of me, I will do it. Now, I'm talking with you here, but I will do it as well. If a little more is expected of me, for anyone whom I value, who gives me platform, who gives me opportunities, I would willingly want to do that because I feel that that's just my own extra way of showing loyalty or gratitude. I would, but again, like he said, if it doesn't go against my value. I believe it's the value of every worker, every employee to want to be the best at their job. So if running errands for you begins to cost me growth in my career and people are getting promoted, HR feels that I am not delivering because I always have an excuse, yet you are not speaking up for me, and that is totally not acceptable. Totally not acceptable. So I have Mrs. Olatunji Akimbo. She says, my former boss was married to an Igbo woman. I remember cooking eforiro, wow, egusi soup, wow, and her father stew almost every 2 weeks. Oh, I need to take a deep breath now before I'm done reading it. I said, I inquired after I left. I discovered that the assignment wasn't assigned to me, to anyone else after me. Please, what was your job? In conclusion, till date, it still involves a few of us with one thing or the other. Yes, this is down to relationship. But you see, we should not always look at things just from the way it looks to us or how it has worked for us. The truth is that, like the story I read to you, called from Business Management Daily, there are people whose official progress are being gradually grounded to a halt on account of unofficial errands. So it has its pluses, yes, and it has its minuses. We need to know where to draw the line, and that's why this show. Now, the next thing is that I have Madam Kate Emmanuel, and she says, I have worked in an organization where I found myself taking care of my boss's meals and some special personal stuff, and also ensuring that it takes some time off to rest. I guess it came with the job, as I was also doubling as executive assistant. You see, so this is easy to understand. Somewhere along the line of the job, this is part of it. And then so Mrs. Folashade Ebiwa says, no, there's no part of the job. Oh, that's not part of the job description, and it's unprofessional. I'm glad to read from her. We were together at Punch as well, and now she has been an employee of labor for since she left. And then she's saying, no, if it is not part of the description of my job, then it should not be. You see, okay, so when we talk about job description, another thing is every job description has a last line, and I'd like to call your attention to it. The fact that the last line on every job description says, includes all of these but not limited to. Check your job description and you're going to find that there most often times. But in not restricted to, should it then be something that demeans, if that is what it feels like? The moment at which that person feels less of themselves for running those particular errands, it's time for that leader to review. It's time to review. And then for Madame Officier, she says, this should not be because it would breed unnecessary familiarity, which will spoil the workplace. It's not good for the workplace. Okay, and herself and Mr. Madinago had a back and forth. Okay, so let's have the comments of another boss of mine, Mr. Samuel Awoyifa. Very short and succinct. He says, that's abuse of office. That's abuse of office. So everybody's looking at it from different ends, and I have Mr. Pastor Philip Olufemi Fola, it says, once they have agreed, why not? So there's a thing for agree, there's a thing for what is in my my job description, there's a thing for what if it affects me negatively, and so much. And then Matthew Ayobami Onifade, as time begins to come to where I have to stop, I just found out I'm on the hour of 30 minutes into this show, and I'll take one or two last, and I'm going to be calling it a date for today. But the thinking that you should take with you, the thought line, the thoughts, the thought leadership that should live with you is the fact that there are a lot of things involved. Never just think that because things look good to you, then it's good for everyone. So Mr. Onifade says, I agree with Mr. Jeremiah Olauton. I believe that an employee may think that he or she, his or her boss might be a leader to follow in his steps, so they want to do them the honors. Okay, so one should just know the limits of such interest. What about people? There is one that I'm yet to read, and that's from Mr. Fidelis Sorry. Let me read. That's another very revered senior colleague of mine in the pen pushing profession. I'm glad to have you on this show today. He says, no, the sacrifice for making your team member an errand boy is massive. When you do, you have pulled down the wall separating the official from the unofficial. The mixture of the two will trigger natural reactions. You have extended a privilege to your subordinate, who will readily embrace it and will secretly expect a reward from you. You know, used and abused by you, he will even have secret grudges and will nurse them against you. He concluded by saying, in all cases, trust is key here. And that's absolutely key for me, trust. And it is not okay to make yourself vulnerable before your subordinates. Well, a lot of people might feel slightly differently. And then also your subordinates will wear massive influence in his circle as Oga's main man or lady when when he or she is running errands, personal errands for you. Finally, it is good to draw the line and make the line clear. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so excited to have taken your comments today, and I'm just going to run through your name to say thank you. Thank you. You made the show very, very robust, and you made the conversation very, very deep. Thank you, Mr. Madunagu Emmanuel, Emeka, forgive me. Thank you, Mr. Peter, Ngozi Chuku, thank you. Christiana Temitope, thank you. Mr. Friday Oloko, thank you. Drew Baba, thank you. Matthew Ayobami, thank you. Madam Tope Adilore, who says, do it against my company policy, but you must have to build up the relationship. Yes, I agree. But of course, we should draw the lines. We should draw the lines. And who decides where the line is? Who decides where the line is? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Efe Bazwaye. I'm so glad to have you. And then thank you, Mr. Omolara Oshi, who says, try to provide answers gives rise to peculiar questions. And then she has a lengthy list of questions. How an official is official errand? Should there be boundaries between official? Anyway, all of these questions have been answered. And then should the aspect of gender come under scrutiny? Absolutely. Because for those who are saying I had to cook this, I had to do that, how do you ensure that from trying to cook for somebody, they don't think that you are now the second madam? Okay, thank you, Mr. Bamidele Okoige. Thank you, Mr. Fidelis Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Olauton Jeremiah. Thank you, Mrs. Olatunja Kimbo. Thank you, Mrs. Kate. Emmanuel. Thank you, Mrs. Folashade Biwoye. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Folat. And thank you, Mrs. Official, the way I prefer to call her. And thank you, finally, Mr. Samuel Awoyifa. I have totally enjoyed myself today, and from the times I've had to host the online version of Mind Your Character is the most mouthful. I could hardly catch a breath from the first minute to the last, because I just wanted to be sure that I heard your views. And ask me if I had any other thing, whatever I had or reservation I had, I already expressed. And because time is up now and I have to run. Thank you for those who stayed with me all through the show. Thank you, Madam Bimpe Balogo, I love you. Thank you, Mrs. Oludayo Shabi, and thank you, Ikeria. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have every one of you. Now we pray that as we begin to say that leaders should not do what we think they should not do, when you become a leader, make sure that you don't do what you don't want a leader to do. Otherwise, it becomes a vicious circle and it keeps going round and round. I want to thank everyone who joined me on our official platform, Mind Your Character Instagram, as well as Mind Your Character Facebook. Thank you, The Inspirational Voice on Instagram. And finally, I'd like to remind you again that we have a leadership roundtable coming up. It's going to be phenomenal. See, you have been talking about leaders. Leaders, they have things to say. Oh, who is listening to them? Well, I have decided with my team to put this together to listen to what leaders are also feeling, the pains they are feeling, people resigning anyhow. Oh, no. All of that. And it's going to be fantastic. I'm going to have Mr. Niyi Adesoya with me. It's June 24, 2023. It's a Saturday and it's holding at the Colossus Hotel in Ikeja, a very beautiful place I want you to see as well. And it's for just 150,000 naira. You want to be part of it, please click the link that will be added to this video anytime, any moment soon, or just call 081 06120819. And the final thing I'm most excited I'd like to say is that my new book called 10R Imperatives for Lasting Leadership. How do you ensure that your leadership lasts? The book will also be publicly presented on that day. I'm so excited to be adding value to you, and thank you all so very much for making this a fantastic outing. Thank you, and God bless you. Please join me again on Friday for another interesting time out. Take care now. Oh, thank you to everybody back end. Thank you, Dorcas. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Chidera. Thank you. And thank you. Bye.